In the name of God, the one holy and undivided Trinity. Amen. Please be seated. Independence Hall, the room where the Declaration of Independence was signed. The Lincoln Bedroom, what was then President Lincoln's office, where the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. The Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, where World War I came to an official end with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. These rooms have been emblazoned in our minds as rooms that housed major historical moments that shaped the course of world history. Tonight we find ourselves in perhaps the most famous room of all. A room that will hold an experience that will become a defining moment in the Jesus story and will itself shape the course of world history. If ever there was an "if these walls could talk" moment, it is this moment in our gospel passage tonight. I've been saying for weeks now how much I love Holy Week. I love it because by its very design, we're called to slow down, to walk with Jesus to his crucifixion moment by moment, to try as best as we can to experience these moments in real time and not through a rearview mirror where we already know what comes next. So tonight, in this room, we gather to sit in that room with Jesus and his disciples as the story unfolds, as Jesus comforts, confounds, and commands those closest to him. It's the last night he'll spend with them. Even if they don't know it, he does. Even if he doesn't know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, he knows that this is the last time he will be with them in this way. He's calm, but not cavalier. He does not throw away 1 second of this faithful night. Everything hinges on what happens in this room tonight. He's been telling them for so long now, yet in so many ways they still don't get it. They're still waiting for him to turn up the heat and show everyone how powerful he is, waiting for him to turn the tables on everyone that has ever tried to hold them down, waiting for him to be the Messiah that they dreamed of. Everything hinges on what happens in this room tonight. He's got one more chance to get them to see what being his disciples really means. One last night to say the things that need to be said. I've always been moved by Maundy Thursday. Well, as most of you know, the Easter Vigil is my favorite service from a liturgical standpoint. I have the deepest organic and emotional connection to this day. Yet, I don't think I really understood the gravity of this quiet moment that played out with no fanfare until my mother died. I'd never had a moment before where I knew that it would be the last time I saw someone. The last day I spent with my mom, I knew it would be the last. While it would be another 3 weeks before she passed away, with her being in Florida and me living here, that day would be the last time I would ever see her. And we both knew it. I had so many questions, so many things I wanted to know. What was her favorite memory of me as a child? What did she dream of being when she was a child? What was it like to fall in love with my dad? Was she ready? Was she scared? Question after question kept running through my head, but all I could ever seem to get out of my mouth was, "I love you, Mom." In those fleeting moments Of all the things I could have asked or could have said, that was the only thing that had to be said. For her part, she told me she loved me too. She told me to love Eric with my whole heart. She told me always to do my best to lead with love. Even in the end, she was still guiding me and showing me the way. Of all that we could have talked about that day, everything kept coming back to love. If you knew my mom, you would know that it could never and would never have been any other way. I think it was the same for Jesus that night. There had to be so many things he wanted to say, but time was running out. And when time is running out, you strip things down to what matters most. And nobody has ever done that better than Jesus does in this room. It's interesting to note that of all the tables he gathered at with other people, most of all those tables, Jesus was a guest. Tonight, however, in this room, he's playing host. So here he is, gathered with his disciples, surrounded by those who have given up everything to follow him, including the one who will betray him. He gets up from the table and begins to wash the disciples' feet, confounding everyone in the room. It was customary for a servant to wash the feet of a guest, or perhaps for someone to wash their own feet, but for the host to do it was unheard of. For the person they believed to be the Messiah to wash their feet was beyond their imagining. In a world that quite literally ran on foot traffic, this was not a simple or small gesture. Feet were vulnerable. Feet were tired. Jesus' care for the feet of his disciples was an act of relationship and intimacy, with each one receiving personal attention from their caring and compassionate host. There could be no question that they each mattered. No question that they were each seen. No question that they were each loved so very much. What Jesus was doing was one final act of loving care for them, and also a powerful act of humble service. The kind of service he expected them to carry on with after he was gone. Yet it is what happens next in this room tonight that our observance today derives its name. The word Maundy comes from the Latin word mandatum, which means to command. When all was said and done, Jesus left them with a commandment to love one another, to love as they had been loved, to love because it was by their love that the world would know that they were his disciples. Can there be anything more clear or more important than that? Picture yourself in that room. Picture yourself as having only one more moment to say the most important thing to the most important person or people in your life. What would you speak of? For Jesus, it was service and love. To serve and to love. That is what he commanded his disciples to do. They didn't know, sitting in that room, what tomorrow would bring, even though through their human frailty, it would get the better of them. When everything went off the rails, they eventually showed everyone that they got the message. There is so much dialogue out there about right now, about what it really means to follow Jesus. We're seeing Jesus being co-opted for some very anti-Jesus culture campaigns, seeing him used to justify war and brutality on some of the most vulnerable people in our society. Tonight, in this room, Jesus calls us to remember who he really is, what he was really about. Tonight, in this room, we are called to acknowledge that when time was running out, Jesus spoke about what mattered most. Tonight, in this room, we are called to remember that if we are really his disciples, then we must do what he commands. Tonight, in this room, we are very directly called to serve and love as Jesus did. Friends, we don't know what tomorrow will bring either. But in many ways, it does feel pretty clear that time is running out. Tonight, in this room, we know what Jesus thinks about what matters most because he just told us. So, as we sit here tonight in this room, the most important question is, what are we going to do about it?